and get started with our webinar this evening. I'm going to share my screen with you all. Let me know if you can see it. All right, so my name is Veronica Moore, and I am the Director of Educational Programs. So I may have seen and interacted with many of you all in various educational programs that we've hosted, whether it be RLA, LI, Global Service Initiative, or even a chapter visit or Building Better Men retreat. I'm going to also allow for my colleague who is on the call to introduce himself as well.
Hello, everyone. Dominic Greene, the Director of Health and Safety Initiatives for the fraternity, Oregon Chapter 99. I am excited to be here tonight. This is one of my favorite topics, and in the last year and a half plus I've been on staff, this has been a big focus of my role, is how do we continue to encourage and empower our chapters to create more Brotherhood events, more programming around Brotherhood, and really how do we help define what Brotherhood really is and make sure that our chapters are continuing to flourish and offer that that experience to their members. So excited to be here tonight and excited for you guys all to join us.
Great, thank you, Dominic. So we're going to get into some fun topics this evening, and we just want to start by first acknowledging that we're currently dealing with challenging times, right? Everything that we have been experiencing for the past 6 weeks has happened suddenly. We've had to pivot at a very fast pace. And even when we think about the future, there is a sense of uncertainty that lies ahead. We don't know what to expect. And so we know that there have been times where you all have had to navigate and make the necessary adjustments, whether that be moving to remote work professionally, or even going to online courses within your college and university environments. And so we want to acknowledge that and know that we're aware of the transition. We know that it has been difficult for some to navigate through that, and we're hopeful that this conversation this evening will provide you all with an opportunity that will give you space and resources to provide activities and just a level of engagement for the members of your chapter, to keep them involved, and to also make sure that we're meeting their needs when it comes to them being engaged and active members of your individual chapters. So we know that we've been having this conversation about Brotherhood and the importance of Brotherhood throughout the educational programs that the fraternity puts on, as well as even individual conversations that you all have had in your own respective chapters. So I think that what we want you all to explore as we're going through this program tonight is the why behind the membership. We want you all to think about, even if we have to have this virtual experience, there was a reason that you decided to join the Delta Upsilon chapter on your college campus. And for our alums and advisors that are on the call, we recognize that there was also a reason why you decided to join when you did. And there's also a reason that you continue to stay engaged with your chapter and the men that you've built wonderful relationships with. So we want you all to think about those two questions. Why did you join the fraternity? And why do you choose to stay involved throughout your college experience and also as a part of your alumnus experience as well? And Dominic, I'm going to give you an opportunity, because as we were having this conversation, I think that you spoke very highly of your experience as a member and some reflection that you all did as a chapter when it came to understanding the meat and the great resources and opportunities that come from staying involved and being engaged. And that also relates to the retention and sustainability of the chapter.
No, absolutely. This was an activity that we actually did annually. So we would do it at least once or twice a year, right actually before recruitment started, as kind of prepping for the recruitment process of kind of reminding everyone why they joined and sharing maybe who are the people that really hooked them, who are the people they met, why, what were some of those recruitment stories, because I think we all have a story as to why we joined the fraternity, which it could be sometimes funny, entertaining, and brings back some good memories. But then also really thinking about like whether you're a first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year member of the fraternity, like why are you still involved? What's kept you here? Why are you still engaged? Like, you know, no one's holding you hostage. That's someone in my chapter had mentioned. So it was kind of funny. They're saying like, you know, you're all here for a different reason. So what does that look like for you? So this could be, and this is a great, these are two questions that I think could very much be reflected in a Brotherhood conversation as we continue to engage people through this time, but also as we think about engagement throughout the summer. I think we're going to be talking about a little bit about specific ideas that we have crowdsourced from other chapters, from staff members, from what some other fraternities and sororities are doing out there, but thinking about how you can stay connected with your brothers throughout between now and through the summer going into the fall, because I know for a fact, I know in my chapter, we rarely connected with each other over summer, right? So sometimes some phone calls, you know, but I think, and sometimes things are now different with social media and texting and group chats, but once again, it's still not the kind of engagement that you're used to. And I think with what Veronica said with these trying times and the different stresses that we're under, this might be another way, an opportunity to connect with brothers. So we're gonna be talking more about that, but these are just two questions to think about as kind of framing our conversation for tonight.
Thank you, Dominic. So as we talk about brotherhood, some of the definitions that we as a fraternity have really spent some time and energy around when it comes to the membership outcome survey. And many of you have seen this before, whether it be conversations that you've had with Dominic, myself, or even Noah, or when we're having conversations around brotherhood at our educational programs. I think that it's important to frame this conversation around engaging brothers virtually as it relates to the definitions of brotherhood. And so I'm just going to briefly go through the definitions really quickly in case you're not familiar with how the fraternity is defining brotherhood. We have brotherhood solidarity, and this is a measure of brotherhood where relationships are developed around a common sense of unity or support, right? I have my brother's back. When we think about brotherhood from a shared social experience, this is a measure of brotherhood where it is developed around a collection of individuals who really enjoy each other's company. Right, you build those relationships with each other. You have some of those intimate conversations where you're really able to tap into who a brother really is at the core. And then that goes into the belonging aspect of brotherhood, where this is a measure where individuals feel valued and they feel appreciated for who they are and what they bring to the table. They're able to show up as their authentic self. And I get really excited when I talk about this aspect of belonging as it relates to brotherhood, because that's the meat and potatoes, right? Like that is the reason why you hear from some of the men in your chapter, and you're having these conversations with them before they even join, and they really want to be understood for who it is that they are, and they're able to show up and be genuine. They're able to show up and be who they are, authentic, and they don't have to put on a face to be a part of the group. And then we have brotherhood accountability. And this is a measure of brotherhood where individuals connect through a mutual commitment to make one another better through mutual systems of accountability. So as we're talking about engaging brothers virtually, one of the things that we really want to focus on, and what the fraternity really focuses on, is that sense of belonging. We want to continue to foster that as the experience that our members are able to attach onto.
Awesome.
So Dominic is going to go into a few of the different activities that we have in terms of building brotherhood virtually. So we do have some tangible things for you all to take away, and I'm going to give the floor over to Dominic so that he can go into further detail about those areas.
Awesome. Thanks, Fee. So these slides will be available after, as well as the recording. We are recording this. So for those of you that are advisors, or in chapters, you can definitely pass it along, or we can send it off to people. So what we're going to do is talking about different types of activities and ways to engage, and then we'll get into some specifics. So thinking about what we can do in a virtual age is breaking down the kind of the categories of brotherhood events. So thinking about social events, which could be a lot of variety of engagement. It could be a video game tournament or something that is more social in nature, where you're having more, you know, the entertainment factor. Learning could be very much, how can we learn from each other? And we're going to go into some specific details about that. Is there are probably some special talents or opportunities that we can, in this time where people might have a little bit more time on their hands, is what can we learn from each other as brothers? I think a lot of framing this, and we always have this conversation in our chapter, is how can the chapter provide those learning experiences outside the classroom, right? So what are the things that you might not be learning in a lecture or in a lab, but what are the things that the fraternity can really help you with those life skills that you might not be picking up in a classroom? And that's where we can kind of fill in those blanks. And then lastly, it would be reflection activities. An example of that would be those two questions that Veronica posed earlier: is why did you join and why are you still here? I think those are some great opportunities, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second about what that could actually look like tangibly. All right, so ways to engage. So a couple different ways, and I think a lot of chapters, in my exploration of how chapters do Brotherhood events in the last couple of years, a lot of chapters will stay away from Brotherhood events because they just think that a Brotherhood event is an all chapter expensive Brotherhood event. Like, we have to go camping together, we have to do paintball, and there's automatically a price tag attached, or it's just really hard to pull off. Like, how are we going to get 80 guys to show up to a camping trip, right? So these are other ways to kind of break things down into smaller pockets. So the first one would be enabling and empower brothers to create their own events. So what are those things that they are really just passionate about, and that they want to, it might be around a specific TV show. This could be very much so allowing guys, and this is where through group chats, or I know a lot of you and chapters communicate in a variety of different ways. So it could be group chats, it could be on Facebook. There's some other different ways that chapters use to discuss with each other, and making sure that if a person is not the Brotherhood chair or the VP memberette or the chapter president, they have the ability to say, hey, we're doing this. Who likes this show, or who wants to talk about this, or who wants to take an exercise class together? And then you all, and those group of 6 people, can do that together. A concept we'll be talking a little bit more later is the concept of brothers teaching brothers. So I mentioned earlier about the life skills piece. My chapter did this. I know a couple other chapters do this, where you have an opportunity to teach the Brotherhood something that you're really passionate about, or something that might just be a life skill. I always use this example when I was in my chapter. Our vice president brought his girlfriend in to teach guys how to sew buttons on a t-shirt, not a t-shirt, on a dress shirt, because like their buttons were popping off on their collars or on their sleeves. So literally she came in, she brought in sewing needles and taught people how to do things. So literally it could be teaching things. We had people come in to talk about food from their heritage. So we had a couple guys who made food and then discussed it for about 5 minutes a chapter, and then we all got to eat the food from, we had a couple guys from Sri Lanka, a couple guys from Norway, so that was pretty cool. We also had a guy to give guitar playing lessons, so kind of cool opportunities there. You could also organize things by classes, by years. A lot of chapters breaking things down, so it could be all the seniors, all the freshmen could get together and do things together. It could be by associate member classes, pledge classes, new member classes, whatever you all call them. So being able to make a larger chapter into kind of smaller chapter. Also, as I mentioned earlier, arranging things by events or hobbies or interests, right? So if someone really enjoys a certain sport, or specifically has really gotten into scuba diving, right? So what are the things that you can share with each other, that guys who really want to get into that? Another thing, I know some chapters will arrange smaller Brotherhood events by families. So it could be it could be specifically people's bigs or littles, or I know some chapters call them pledge dads or pledge sons, whatever that looks like. I know a chapter arranged the entire chapter and put everyone into 4 different family trees, per se. Almost think about, like, I'm a dork, but think about like Harry Potter houses, and they were able to create competitions throughout the semester. It could be something that starts during the summer, but as we talk about more ideas, you can actually create some kind of Brotherhood competitions by what kind of events and competitions you want to do. So if it is video game tournaments, or it could be TikTok videos, whatever that looks like, is arranging things by families. All right, so let's go on the next slides. So here are some specific ideas. So this is a little bit more of the higher level business related things. Is what are the things you can still do? I know some chapters are still having chapter meetings, whether it be weekly or bi-weekly. I think it's still important to bring people together, be able to present the awards. If your chapter used to have like Brother of the Week or Scholar of the Week, like how can you still do that? So business could be very limited, but it's really, I know when I was in my chapter, we usually had 90+% attendance at our meetings, because a lot of the meetings, I've said this to chapters, and I said it multiple times is, I always heard this, that if you could do your chapter meeting via email, then what's the point? A lot of times chapter meetings are just boring and people just read off reports and then they're 15 minutes long and people leave. But what are some of the things that really engage people? So whether it be something like a Brothers Teaching Brothers thing, or it could be a weekly award. I know my chapter always did a gavel pass, so everyone had an opportunity, maybe it might be 140 characters or less, but what's going on in their lives and how are they doing, right? So everyone has an opportunity to check in. So if you do a Zoom chapter meeting, it really might just be an opportunity for everyone to have the floor and have an opportunity to go down the roster and say, hey, John, how are you doing? Be able to have someone share what's going on in their lives. I think it's important. How do we engage people? We realize that some people are perfectly fine just being on the group chat but because they're also with their family, but other people, might be in their apartment with their roommate because they couldn't go home because their parents were susceptible to COVID, or they don't have that opportunity and they don't have the best family situation. So, what are the ways that we continue to engage people through maybe like official ways? Also, if you're an officer or if you're an advisor, and I think there's perfect timing now that people are wrapping up classes to actually have the time to do some advanced planning. So calendar planning for the fall. What does goal setting look like for every officer? Knowing where you're at, in the spring before everything got halted. How can we do some advanced strategic planning to make sure that we're perfectly ready to go into the fall? As we all know, the fall could look different for a lot of campuses, and also for chapters too. Time to budget plan. What does this look like? But also some of those administrative tasks that people have been wanting to get to. CEP is due June 1st. Some chapters are still working on meta-merit requirements. What does that look like? How are you talking to your liaisons? How can you still empower your exec board officers to engage with each other, but a good opportunity to still work for the chapter, right? And I also think for higher level chapters that had spring associate member classes, we have a really awesome resource. Elon, I know Wichita State, Indiana have done virtual initiations. We have the resources and how-tos to do that. If you have a spring class, I highly encourage you to make sure that you have an opportunity to initiate them. I know it's not the exact same thing, but you could do it. Make sure that they're full members going into the summer, and then you could do the official ceremony when you get back. But also if you, for some of our chapters are actually doing summer new member classes or summer recruitment, there's opportunities to do the associate member ceremony over the summer as well. Especially the fact they're not gonna get that face-to-face time, but we do know some chapters that are already knee deep into summer recruitment and already recruiting people. So it might be an opportunity to do something a little bit more official. That could be something that parents get invited to if you're doing it virtually. So what are the ways that we can initiate? So either put people through the associate member ceremony or initiate them, or whatever that looks like. So please let us know if you have any questions about that. Your chapter liaison can pass along those resources. It's also on the website as well. Perfect. I'm going to pause right there. If anyone has, at least for the areas that we just talked about, if you have any ideas or other ways you want to chime in or how your chapter is engaging at the chapter level, I can pause for a second to see if you have any. This is where we're going to have an opportunity after each section. I'm going to open it up and allow people to kind of chime in. So Veronica, if you want to go back a slide. How you have any ideas on how you have been engaging people at the higher level chapter level? If not, we can move on. Just want to get
She did? I did. Because they
platforms. So there are, so the right-hand column has platforms. So here are just some ideas. Everyone knows about Zoom, Google Hangout, all the different types of ways to engage with people. Obviously, some of them are more obvious. I know some people I've heard about the Marco Polo app. It's kind of like described as a video walkie-talkie where it's a way where the app saves the video chat. So they don't go away. So unlike Snapchat, they're actually there. So it's kind of fun. And obviously, there's some other kind of platforms. House Party has the opportunity to play games or movies or whatever that looks like. And then there are other ways to just engage. The left-hand column, I'm just going to go through these ideas. Some of these you might have seem obvious, that obviously you can do some esports, online gaming, video game tournaments. Some chapters have talked about doing bro dates, where you assign everyone in the chapter someone else in the chapter, and then they get to, sometime that week, they get to do like a 1 hour hangout with each other on FaceTime or whatever platform they want to use, and just to get to know each other. So it could be like a senior and a freshman. It could be assigning people just to kind of an opportunity where they can engage somehow. So they could, you know, cook the same meal and eat it at the same time, or they play a video game together. Whatever that looks like is making the larger chapter into kind of smaller connections. I mentioned cooking together. Some chapters have talked about, you know, everyone is going to have a grilled cheese sandwich or a burger for lunch that day, and people will make it. So they kind of will either cook together online and show each other what they're making, and then all eat together. So thinking about, like, those of you who have chapter houses, what does it look like? You know, I think a big part of connection when you have meal service in your house is eating together, right? And some of those connections that you make. So what does that look like to actually, you know, you still get to eat together, and how that looks like. Going back to the learning, some chapter people have talked about virtual webinars, or what are some of those things that are potentially online classes. There's a lot of platforms out there right now that are doing free online classes. So maybe a few of the guys can take some virtual classes together, or watch webinars together, or presentations. A lot of celebrities are also doing different types of activities. So whether it be performing or discussions or speeches or whatever that might look like. So how can you share some of that with people? But also, this goes back, I mentioned about personal interests. If there's specific interesting things, like it might be Dungeons and Dragons, it might be something very specific that you can get smaller groups of guys together. So it could be hobby webinars or just smaller groups of getting guys together. And there's a lot of stuff obviously out there online. So. Perfect. And then I'll do this, and then I'll open it up. So I wanted to talk about, as your semester is wrapping up, I know some of you are on the quarter system, so you still have time to go, but what are all of the end of the year activities, programs that you used to do? Ooh, Veronica, if you could go back one. All right. So on the left-hand side, so what are all those activities and programs that you all used to do when you had people there in person, right? So some chapters already talked to me of doing senior send-offs. I know some chapters do like senior wills, where the seniors have an opportunity to share their last kind of final thoughts, their last speech, their last kind of words to the chapter, but then also they might give away some of their old t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, whatever that looks like. But also an opportunity to greet the chapter and send their farewell at the last time, right? We are also, some of you have heard from your liaisons, we are trying to capture videos right now for messages to our seniors. So if you have not heard about this, we can send it out again, but we're trying to capture just thank you messages from advisors, current members of the chapter, to be able to send out to your seniors. Like, thank you, seniors, you know, for all your, you know, everything you've offered the chapter. So we are trying to capture that. We have a video platform that you can do that. We have a small number of them, but we want to be able to capture more in the next couple of weeks, and then be able to send it off to the seniors that we have on our roster. So this is an opportunity to kind of give some end of the year thank yous, but also some of you might have usually had like a banquet end of the year that might come with awards or other kind of ways to celebrate people. So making sure that you're still doing some of those things, and what does that actually look like for y'all? And then the last little category on the right would be some things. Netflix party. Netflix obviously has an opportunity. You can all watch a movie together. I know some chapters have talked about doing TikTok videos or dance challenges. This could be also part of that. I mentioned like the family challenges or the brother challenges. People could get points for doing some of these things. That could also come with exercise classes. Some chapters have done polls of the day. So every day they put out like what's your favorite blank, or they'll put out a question of the day, and then everyone gets to answer it. Just a way to kind of keep people engaged every day. One chapter talked about too is like, do you cribs? So that old school show Cribs on MTV, but what's a way that every guy in the chapter could actually do a little video to show everyone their current home situation, like where they're at, like their rooms, their house, wherever they're at. So just an opportunity to kind of engage each other. Since they're not with each other, how can they see what everyone's doing back home? And then some chapters have talked about social media profiles. So this could also help with recruitment, but thinking about how can you spotlight different brothers in the chapter. So this could be guys who maybe were abroad, guys who might be graduating and are going to law school in the fall, or people that are starting med school, or maybe people landed a really big internship this summer. What does that look like to be able to spotlight brothers, to be able to kind of profile brothers, and be able to continue to put out social media content even though you're not together? I know that So yeah, so if there's anyone else, if there's anyone have any ideas or other things you're doing to engage people, we're just trying to make sure is how do you continue to engage each other as the semester wraps up. I know some of you are about to go into finals or starting finals soon, but some of you still have a couple weeks left for the semester. But how can you continue to do some of the wrap up things, but also continue to engage each other throughout the summer? And how do you can keep those conversations going? So I'll pause right there. Does anyone else have any other ideas?
If anyone has anything to share in terms of what it is that you all have been doing or able to do as it relates to engaging your brothers virtually, go ahead and comment in the chat, and then I will unmute you.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then we can go to the next. And this one is thinking about, obviously, our alumni, our advisors, our brothers, is opportunities, whether some chapters are already doing this now, but some chapters can start thinking about how do we create more intentional opportunities with our alumni. We all talk about, a lot of us join because of the networking opportunities, or what does that look like to be engaged and actually have a lifetime membership. So what does that look like to engage your advisors, house corporations, alumni boards, whatever that might look like, is thinking about, and this is where I've seen some other ideas from what chapters have been doing, is under the kind of the career development umbrella, thinking about resume reviewers, people who are willing to do, maybe some alums might be willing to do informational interviews, the concept of like how they got their start in their career field, right? So a concept that one of the chapters has talked about is specifically engaging alumni from different career fields and putting out a message out either on your chapter's Facebook group or Instagram page to be able to say like, hey, we're looking for alumni in medicine, in law, in finance, in nonprofit leadership, whatever that might look like, is how can you get alumni to sign up to be willing to at least engage with undergrads and talk to them about how they got their career started, what did they need to do, learning more about their roles. Specifically, as we know that some chapters and some people have lost internships because of COVID-19, is thinking about how can we still create some intentional opportunities to engage with alumni. So I know we have some advisors on the call, but good opportunities to think about engaging with people throughout the summer. And there might be some good opportunities. How do you create those social connections? I mentioned virtual happy hours, whatever that might look like. A lot of chapters have had reunion events or celebration events. It could be chapter founding dates, or some type of opportunity to get together, but encouraging the opportunity for alumni and undergrads to kind of get together in a social way. Some chapters have also discussed alumni speakers, right? So there might be an alum from your specific chapter that is willing to give a little talk, to talk about either their career field or something that what that looks like. So I know Gavin has something to share. So I'll open up Veronica will open up Gavin's mic.
Yeah, hey guys. So I'm the chapter president at the chapter Embry-Riddle down in Daytona Beach, Florida. So like I kind of commented, and like you guys have just been talking about, especially with the alumni engagement, a lot of our alumni are now currently working from home. So they work their traditional, 9 to 5 or whatever hours it is. And then they have that evening time that they're not really doing anything. So we've looked at doing, and we have done several things to bring them in, given our 10-year reunion will be this fall. So a lot of the events, like we did a trivia night where you have a little bit of a buy-in, and then the winner gets a portion of that proceeds and the rest goes into a chapter fund. Various different things like that. Several of the ideas that were listed on your last page. We've done speed dating through breakout rooms on Zoom, with just the general idea that when we all come back in the fall, if we get to on our normal timeline, when we do have this 10-year event, it's more of a, hey, catching up, what have you done this semester, rather than, hey, I really don't know who you are, let's use this next 3 days to get to know each other. So that's kind of what we've been doing from the alumni engagement, and a lot of what you've just been kind of highlighting with the resume reviews, career development. A lot of our alumni are, in the industries like, airlines and different engineering companies. And that's what a lot of our chapter coming out of a technical school kind of looks for. So we've had a couple brothers help us out with getting virtual internships, what to do when our internships that were supposed to be in person are now canceled for the summer. So various things like that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Gavin. Those are great ideas. I know that a lot of chapters, especially when in talking about engagement with their alumni, that I've had some conversations with chapters that have completely given me the deer in headlights look, or their engagement is pretty limited. So this I think the opportunity now, if people might have a little bit more time on their hands, that alumni might be willing to do that. Just to let you know, we can run lists at IHQ of DU alumni in a specific radius of your school where people are at, so we can run lists of people from your chapter. We can also run lists of people within like a 25-mile radius of Daytona Beach, right? So this could be DUs from any chapter, right? So we have an opportunity to run lists. If there's opportunities to just engage with people. I think a lot of times alumni get hesitant because the only time they hear from chapters might just be when they're asking for money. But this is an opportunity to give, they have an opportunity to share their insight, their wisdoms, especially for younger alumni too, ways to get engaged with their chapters and ways to do that. To contact those lists, if you want to contact Jana at jana@deltau.org, so Jana Anderson at headquarters. Jana can help run those lists. Specifically, if you're just let her know that you're trying to engage alumni for career development or alumni engagement purposes. But a lot of chapters just don't even know where to start with it because they feel like they have to just, once again, thinking really big, like, oh, we have to have a golf tournament or we have to do something gigantic, or this is an opportunity just to do some smaller scale engagement. I know one of the chapters I worked with has talked about creating an alumni mentor program where everyone in the chapter would actually be assigned to an alumnus, ideally in their career field, but someone who's almost like an alumni big brother, or a mentor that they can just connect with and just say, hey, I have an alumni connection to help me with, because that person might know someone in your career field or be able to kind of direct you with how to navigate, that school, depending on how far they're out. So just a good opportunity to think about ways of engagement is how can we also engage our alumni, not only each other, but I think this might be a great opportunity for people who might be a little disconnected. As I know too, that I think it's easy in my experience when I was an undergrad, but I've seen it also as an advisor, that a lot of times people completely disconnect over the summer. And this is a great opportunity to engage people in different ways that they're not used to. If people are around more, especially if a lot of the stay-at-home orders are not lifted until well in the summer, this might give just a good opportunity to get started and create some other connections, and then be able to connect the undergrads in the chapter with alumni who really want to just get back and just be there as a connection. So perfect. So feel free to chime in with any ideas in the chat box, and then we can go on to the next slide. We've talked about this a little bit already, but how can we, when we're thinking about engaging alumni, what does it look like beyond college, and making opportunities for the, like we said, for mentorship, advising, connections. And I think one of the things that Veronica and I talked about the other day is what does that look like to get connected and stay connected, right? So what does it look like that, there's opportunities to volunteer as an advisor. So one of the opportunities we've talked about is also, and we're going to do a future webinar about what does that look like as you transition as a senior, and then you graduate, is how can you still stay connected with a fraternity? That a lot of chapters need, advisory boards need help, house corporations need people to join on. So what does that look like to give back? A great opportunity for younger alumni, but also alumni that have been disconnected, right? So people who maybe moved away and then are now back in the area and have a little bit more time in their hands, right? So what does that look like to engage with people beyond and really help people in your chapter understand that this is a lifetime experience? I think it's sad when we've seen it before where people will say, oh yeah, I was a DU. And then it's like, did you get kicked out? And they're like, no, I just, it was just a place for me to live for 4 years. And it's not beyond that. So I think this is where we all have them, the guys in our chapter that are not super connected. They maybe have never been an officer. They don't really come around as much. They're not as super engaged. Those are the people, when I think about building or increasing your brotherhood experience virtually and connections and how do we reach out to people, those are the people that I worry about from a retention standpoint, that depending with the economy and with how long this lasts, is how do we make sure that we're connecting with everyone and that no one gets kind of left behind or people don't fall through the cracks, right? So I think this is where, as we continue to show the reasons why we love this fraternity, and show that the fraternity is still very relevant, whether we're together or not, that we still have that brotherhood and that bond that, if you're on the chess team or the rugby club, that you're not going to necessarily get. So, right, I'm 24 plus years into my DU experience, and I've absolutely loved it. And I continue to give back because I really care about this organization, and I would not be where I am, personally and professionally if it wasn't for the fraternity. So thinking about how can you continue to have those reflective conversations, fun conversations, and connections that starts, I know a lot of your chapters are already doing stuff now, but how can you continue those connections throughout the semester and quarter, but also into the summer to make sure that stuff continues going into the fall? And that's a big priority and goal for us at IHQ. Awesome.
So some of the things that we've been focused on, you all, is really being able to provide what is that value, right, that the fraternity is able to give to you all as members and to stay connected. And what are we focusing on right now? So over the past couple of weeks, we've been really digging deep into the conversations around how do we continue to give our members the experience that they deserve and the resources that they need and will be valuable to them, even though they may not be that high touch on campus in-person experience. And so as all things are right now, we've had to think about how do we engage our members virtually. And so we're really excited about some of the opportunities that we have that are coming up. We've gotten some really good feedback from some undergraduate members as well as some alumni members around providing, excuse me, virtual educational resources for members to go to. So something that we're really excited about is our Virtual Ignite series, and Dominic hinted at this earlier in the presentation, is that we have an opportunity for the members of the fraternity to provide a talk, quick 5 to 10 minute talk on something that they are passionate about. If some of you have gone to the Leadership Institute in the past, think about those Ignite conversations and the sessions that individual members, excuse me, got on stage and they talked about topics that were very special to them. And so we're drilling that down into about 5 to 10 minutes where members are able to share a specific topic. They're also able to do that brothers teaching brothers opportunity. So if you are interested in building apps, right, for specific resources or tools, we have brothers who are interested in doing that. If you, want to do a cooking demonstration, as Dominic mentioned before, there's an opportunity to provide that skill and that love that individuals have to brothers of the fraternity nationwide. And it's not just focused on what they may be able to provide to their members, specifically in their chapters. And then another aspect that we're really excited about is the opportunity to hear from some of our alumni. So those who have been successful in business, what are some things that they can share about their journey to where they are now that will be valuable to our undergraduate members and the experience that they currently have on campus. We have some wonderful alums who are chapter advisors. We have wonderful alums that are doing great things in different industries, and we want to provide that opportunity for our members to learn from those individuals and to hear about what were some things that they took away from that professional experience that maybe they were able to look back on their DU experience and it prepared them for the success that they're able to have in their roles currently. Dominic, is there anything that you want to share?
No, well, that's just a great plug. More information to come, but if you know guys in your chapter that are passionate or have some special talents or funny things that you think they might be willing to share with the entire Brotherhood, that we definitely want to be able to put those up online. So more information to come, but definitely for yourselves, or this could be from alums or anyone you know, because we all know that we have, as I learned in my chapter, some guys had the most random, ridiculous, weird talents that we had no idea until every year my chapter had like a Brotherhood talent show, and this is when things would pop out. And thinking back, that would be some pretty funny things that guys would be willing to share with everyone, to be able to say, hey, do you know how to do this? And then be able to actually show us. So we're just looking for some fun things to keep us educated and entertained as we're home right now.
Great. So now we're going to have an opportunity for you all, if you had some things or ideas that you wanted to share in either or those buckets that we talked about, the chapter level, brother to brother level, or some things that you all are doing to engage your alumni at this time virtually, go ahead and comment in the chat box and we will unmute you. And also, if you all have any specific questions that you want to ask Dominic or I, we'll open up the floor for you all to do that at this time. So go ahead and comment in the chat box and we will unmute you so that you can speak.
Just like I let everyone know, if you're thinking about a question, is we are trying to increase our resources around Brotherhood. There is a Brotherhood chair job description now that's up on the DU website. It's under the VP Membership Education tab under the Chapter Resources tab. So we will be adding a lot of these ideas to that. But if you have any specific ideas, like I love the trivia idea, the speed dating idea, things like that, feel free definitely to email me. I'm at greene@deltau.org. So if there's any ideas we want to put out there, we want to just continue to increase those resources for chapters to just think about ways that they can engage people virtually right now, but also we want to get chapters prepared for what does Brotherhood look like in their own chapters, because like I said, some chapters only do large scale events. We want to be able to encourage both the large, the small, the informal events, formal events. What does that look like for structured events or non-structured events, to just be able to kind of have that free-flowing process where people feel comfortable planning things and hanging out with their brothers.
And gentlemen, we'll also be sure to have just a one-pager of the different ideas and tangible resources that we went through on this webinar, and that will be sent out to you all individually, those of you who registered for this webinar this evening. And then we'll also make sure that we have this information that lives on the fraternity's blog. So you can find that on deltau.org. I'll give a couple more seconds for anyone who would like to share or ask a question to do so in the comments or the chat box. Okay, I don't see any. So if you would like to get in touch with Dominic or myself, or even your own individual chapter liaisons, you should have their information. Our emails are on the screen here. We're happy to discuss ideas that you all have, to go through anything that you may be working on so far. And we hope that you're able to share this information with the brothers in your chapter. We're hopeful that you found the information that we shared with you all this evening helpful to not only your engagement level currently during this pandemic that we're experiencing, but as Dominic said earlier today, there's a great opportunity for us to extend Brotherhood beyond just the academic year, and really being able to focus our attention on how do we foster that sense of belonging year-round, so that when brothers come back to campus in the fall, that they are still very engaged. They're excited about seeing the brothers that they haven't seen all summer, and they're also excited about the experience that lies ahead of how they'll be able to enjoy each other, right? To create that shared social experience that's beneficial for them.
Absolutely. Thanks for everyone for joining, and we will upload this online in the next couple of days. So an opportunity for you to share this with anyone in the chapter or your advisor. So let us know if we can help with anything moving forward.
Thank you all for coming.